One thing that I guess is priority in my mind at the moment is the current state of affairs and where humanity is going if it doesn't wake up and quick. So
Yeah.
that's where all my efforts are gone at the moment, into trying to come up with anything, any plan possible to wake up as many people as possible to what's going on in the world, and all
Yeah.
being a lie. And you know it's just, I've had like a debate today with some guys in the street who pulled me in the street, shouted across the road to me actually, and I didn't want to embarrass them, and I didn't want to call them stupid or anything, but I just said do some research, and the answer back to that is you do research. It's like, well, I didn't want to explain myself because there's no need if they have no idea. But I thought to myself, this is always what we've got, isn't it? It's just they'll give her like a trained comeback, and that's the depth of it. They will never research it. They will never look into it. They don't really want to find out what's going on. It's just a wall goes up, boom, knee-jerk reaction, and sometimes anger to. Yeah, and now it's been accentuated. I've noticed the change in people, in basically how the human spirit has been in the past is completely gone. I don't know how old you are, Clive, but I'm old enough to remember the world not being anything remotely like what it is now. I mean, I can't even draw any similarities. The people who occupy it are completely different. The old characters, there was always personalities and characters every single day. Now, everyone is completely the same, and it's very rare you see anybody with any personality and character, you know?
I do know, and I think we might have just cracked straight into it without any introduction. So um, they are totally brainwashed, and it's incredible what a brilliant job they have done with people.
Brilliant.
That,
Brilliant.
it's like MK Ultra on steroids, but they've had 70 years of practice with MK Ultra, and
Yes.
wow, are they good at it? So,
They've nailed it, but I think they actually have shot themselves in the foot because there's doubts raised in even the most fast asleep person after what we've all experienced for the last year. And you find, I've had a few of them, people coming up to me and say, "What do you think about all of this?" And I'll say my honest opinion. Um, but they sort of reach out to me because a lot of them in the community around know sort of what I do. Um, and it's just like a call for, they basically they're scared of any confrontation. They're scared of anything happening if they go out and they don't obey. I've seen some of the toughest guys in my neighborhood, right, who I have no respect for anymore. Not now. It's like, since when do you do what since when do we do what the government told? This is what I can't get with Britain. I wanted to go into the centre of Paddington Station with a loudspeaker and just say this simply: Britain, where are you? Because Britain is not here anymore. The people who used to stand up, back in the 1950s when they tried to get us to have identity cards, yeah, we were up in uproar, and it was dumped, the whole idea. And now, they've adopted some extreme kinds of communism, like the British ethos never ever existed. Royal family, gone, snuffed out, they're just finished. If you could have just said this 2 years ago, like Buckingham Palace is empty, Prince Philip is dead, the royal family are just in tatters, and it's no longer going to live in Buckingham Palace anymore, and everything else that we just experienced in the last year, no one would have ever have believed you. It's just too fantastical. It's just yet, and they're not done with it yet, are they? This is just, you know, they're sort of. I'm sort of thinking like by next year they might start to get things rolling again. They're doing a last little ditch attempt at, but what I get overall is they are not worried about money, any of them. They're building for a new future. Buildings are going up in every city, infrastructures of transport in every city, and they don't seem to have any money worries. Now, I know they keep printing this off. More money's been printed in the last year. 20% of the money ever printed, they say, in the last year. So, again, they shoot themselves in the foot with that. They've just proved that all fiat currency and money and everything that we go through is absolute BS. Interest the whole business. So yeah, they keep shooting themselves in the foot. So I think that they may have not estimated, or they have a lot of people thinking on this in the think tank of any way this is going to go, with the truther movement, etc., and the demographic of it all. They expect demonstrations, so they get the scruff of the neck on them, which they have done, and they achieve little. And the other aspects of just some sort of speaking up against the resistance on the internet, which is getting stifled. I don't think they could have estimated the way it was going to go. It's just the whole of the subjects, that everything that has been, exposed, about the dialectics against the people, the health, electromagnetics, again, there's just a whole smorgasbord of tools and weapons they use against us to keep our vibrations down and keep everybody ill and wanting them for more of their, snake oil. It's so multi-layered how they got the people. It's just, and they take them so far away from where we're supposed to be going, as a people, where the whole family unit thing is gone, self-governing communities like we used to be, trusting. All of these things are just going to be unreachable soon, nasty little Nazi state, everybody wanting to, tell on one another, like nasty little school children. Everyone with a very, very limited viewpoint of reality. If you say, this discussion with this boy today, I couldn't even go there with him because I didn't want to embarrass him, but he knew nothing. He knew nothing. He just knew nothing about nothing. So I couldn't even start a conversation with him. So that's what a lot of the trouble is, isn't it? People are just going to argue with television or the education system that they've gone through, stamp their foot that this cannot be, the laws of, like we've always gone with the laws of physics. 2 weeks ago, they're saying, oh, we got to rewrite the laws of physics. We made some new discoveries. So even, science isn't set in stone. That they will fight for it. They have to keep shifting it all of the time to, meet the public demographics change and the paradigms change, especially for the thirst for knowledge and information. Definitely. This is something that people are passionate about and give up their entire lives for. I've known people to give up their businesses, Clive, just to go on a truth on the truth campaign. So.
I sold my house to fund what I did.
There you go.
Well, nobody else was going to do it.
No.
And it was the best thing I did, because most people dream too small.
Oh no. This is something that I have been my ethos since the beginning. Is I always say, never limit yourself in this place. Why would you? Why would you limit your experience in this place? I told myself I was going to be an author, so I became an author. I told myself I was going to be a convention speaker, and I became a convention speaker. I told myself I was going to be, actually, I programmed myself to say, or to think that I wanted to be not the biggest, but the best YouTuber in the world.
Well, you're doing very well on that front.
I'm trying my best, but to keep it true and real. The whole time, I have been here on this involved in the truth community for 6 years, and I've seen some right royal stabbings in the back in this community. People, there's a lot of front, a lot of ego. I notice people when they get well known on YouTube, they go, I was, in the first, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I feel really great, but I soon seen through it. I never liked all of that stuff in the beginning. So there's a lot of that, and a lot of people are just turned the whole movement into a personal thing, where they will run of their mouth away with things that can be really detrimental to the whole thing. Endless roads of inquiry that will go to a brick wall, is what's being put out on the internet a lot of the time. To me, I think we know all the answers of everything we need. I think that reality, if you want to call it that, or consciousness, will unfold the information to you when it's good and ready, and when you're ready to receive it. So if you don't, and you're not going to understand it or the deeper implications of what you're about to find out, then the universe is a very, very kind, caring, sort of female entity that wants to just hold you and say, steady on, Matt, be patient. We'll give, just give it time. Because I'm very impatient, I want to like do it now. I want to get it on. But I have to just do it as the universe wants to do it. Because I won't be ready, I'm sure, for some of this information that is being unveiled to the whole of humanity. So I think with like, I hate to use the word evolution, Clive, but it's like an evolutionary process with consciousness. As we grow spiritually aware, consciousness symbiosis will happen, where it will be, in parallel with us, and then give us, the seeds for our awakenings. But all of the answers are here inside, I believe. I believe, when we go in searching for answers, I don't think we're looking for answers. I think we're looking for verification of what we already know. And then when we hit that, we buzz, don't we? We get that resonance, that truth, because truth has a vibration. And, and it's happened so many times on a daily basis over the last few years, Clive. Just undeniable. When you hit it, you read it, and you're like almost in tears, and you just are well with emotion and feeling because of what you just read or discovered or thought. Then beyond a shadow of a doubt that I've hit something here, and there's a truth here. Yeah. And some of these truths, sometimes make absolutely no sense whatsoever. They're fragmented, and they make no sense when you look at them. But if you draw some of the pieces together, like we've been doing over the last few months, and then when we have a result, there's been one today as well. It's an oh my god moment. It's literally a life-changing moment. Your mind is literally blown. My mind's been blown, half a dozen times today. I've been flattened by information. Just how did I not see that? How could I have not known? With the informationary process, I can, the way they used to say, Clive, that the information's in the Akashic record and it's easy attainable, everything, if you want to think like a Sheldrick way, it's all in the morphic field, if you like. Yeah. So I think there's essence of truth to that, but I'm putting into the form of liquid, the liquid medium that we live in, or the fluid medium we live in, or the water itself, because water holds memory. Yeah. Now, when you go deeper into the structure of water, it's just an absolute mind-blowing thing. Just the entire matrixy and the matrix, and the lattice, and the different conversations. What happens to water when it's frozen? Have you ever, seen ice and the beautiful formations that it can, exhibit through the geometry that passes through the water while it's freezing process? This thing captures information too, water, just like the way crystal would. And we're mostly made of water, and probably recycled water also. So, they do say in official science anyway that in each droplet of seawater, you could have all of the memories of Sir Isaac Newton, or, in this bead of water, because they admit that it holds memory. So I think the information's in the water. I think it's in the water. That's what I think. The information is in us, and in not exactly in the water, but more in the membrane, the memory brain, the membrane, the place between the water and the physical, more denser realm. Yeah, that that is not liquid, if you like solid wood and trees and walls, etc. So yeah, and light comes into it as well. Obviously, everything in this place is vibration, and we are all electric, as you know, probably. Our friends are electric. It's all electric. So that's what I've been doing. I've been writing books. I've been just decoding, because what I didn't know was our interpretation of antiquity was just as valid as academia's, because they were just pulling like rabbits out of hats all of the time, and I didn't know this. So I was like, oh right, so if I do an accurate decode, maybe use think tank with loads of minds, then mine would be accurate, if not more accurate, than what academia got as a narrative. So that's what we did. That's what we did. We deciphered antiquity from, allegory, Jesuit allegory, architecture, this sort of feel to the Phoenician world. So we've been decoding that. And the results, it tells you everything about this realm. In architecture alone, it tells you everything about what this place is and the terrifying truth of it all, the resets of this place, which is my field, the master of disaster. So I cover a lot, though. I cover a lot, in my field. But health's on there, I've changed the health or helped change the health of many people that we've woken up, got them away. Years ago, I know people who were terrible alcoholics coming to me, dribbling to me, where they were off their heads on medication of the doctors, whatever, sleeping tablets, whatever. And just through me, because it was me talking to them and that, I've had people have complete turnarounds in their life, complete turnarounds, go away from bad diets, drugs or alcohol and this sort of lifestyle. In fact, some of the people now, and I've met as well, wouldn't even dream now of that sort of lifestyle. It wouldn't even enter their minds. This is, the results of, where this truth has left people when they realize, that we've never really been alone. And, there's something else here and it's helping us, what I call the Most High. And there's a great awakening happening. And now you can't really be denied because they just basically are resetting civilization, aren't they, into a really, really scary, scary futuristic world, which I don't even want to think about the way it's going. But the flip side to that is when there's darkness, can you imagine how bright the light will shine? And it's just a darkness across the entire plane, where you were being bullied. The police have just gone mental sometimes, but I don't think they want to come out anymore from what I've been hearing. They want to go and catch some drug dealers by all accounts, which is quite right. So people, I can only imagine them taking so much, Clive. I thought by now things would have gone a lot worse a year ago. I thought in a year's time, we probably would be. I was, making plans to bounce. I've been spending last year setting up lands and sites to go to and take people to, just to get out if we need to in a hurry. Even today, I've been working on some aspects of that. So that's the way I was thinking, is just setting up acts and, getting people out to safety, because just worried about the future of them all, and everybody's children and grandchildren and where they're going with it all. It's just a nightmare. And if it's not us that stands up, I don't know who else will, because who else is going to do it? Where else is the platform? Where else is it happening? Somebody tell me, because it's not. I can't see it. So it must be this. So big work, serious works afoot. Loads going on though, Clive. It's been a really exciting time just lately. I've been organising loads of stuff that's coming off, hopefully. Trying to get some meets together, some of the people, some of the truthers. So we've just all been talking to one another for years. And so I've been trying to organise a meet. I got one together today, organised in London. Probably in a couple of weeks when the weather improves, and one on the summer solstice as well. So I'm going to have meets to get a lot of people together. But I got a book coming out like next week, my second book, the Holy Grail of the Great Reset. So I think I nailed it on the title, Clive. And it talks about all of it: free energy, mud floods, the reset cycle. I cover the whole thing, right the way back to how I cover everything from Federal Reserve to what the Rothschilds did at Waterloo, to Dresden, to World War II, to World War One. I cover everything in this book. Any dialectic for book one. It's called Questions. It is book one, and then book two is going to be out Christmas that's more or less done as well. So like I'm gonna just be like trying to get that promoted, my book too, like next month. So it's out on Kindle next week, and then out on Amazon a couple of weeks, and then physical form next month. So that's what I've been excited and just doing that at the moment, and just keep you in the Flat Earth British think tank, bubbling on mind blowing information.
I must say, of all the YouTube channels I watch, some of the some of the very best information I've learned from your channel.
Oh, wow.
Fabulous, interesting stuff. I love it.
Oh, thank you very much. That's really, really nice of you to say. It's just been it's not a solo thing, I got like a lot of people, like a team, the Flat Earth British think tank. I hate to think of me just doing, this alone, because it's not. They bring me all the information. I'll use my analytic skills. I'll do a line of inquiry, put posts together, and I'll keep the community going with hangouts and whatever meets whatever I can do for them, basically, because it's all about the community. We had a nice little shout yesterday. I watched that Level, the new Eric Dubé movie, and it's a fantastic movie. It is so fantastic. It's so undeniable, to any thinking person. It's like, uh-oh. The moment it finished, I was like, uh-oh, this is going to cause some trouble. But I got in the credits, or the Flat Earth British think tank got in the credits at the end of the movie. I don't know why, because we're not in it in any form, but at least we were recognised for our efforts in trying to wake people up.
And you must know Dave, allegedly Dave.
I've met him a few times. Yeah, he's my friend. Yeah. I've met Dave at conventions, a couple of conventions, London. When a guy goes up to Hyde Park, hangs out. So my friends in my gang, we're all a gang. He's my Facebook friend. He's one of the gang. It's like him and Jason and just all the guys that were in the Globelite tour. So it's David and just there's just so many of them, and they're all my friends. We all meet up when we can, and we're just all a fam. Really, we're all a family. So yeah, Dave's epic. Yeah, Dave's epic. He really is. Yeah, I really think a lot of Dave.
He had a fantastic experience healing himself with using himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's not the first I heard of that. See, I was working years ago as a stonemason's assistant, working on stonemasonry. Beautiful little job on a farmhouse. So I was working away on the roof, and the foreman told me he'd had a terrible problem with his waterworks, and it was affecting his love life as well. So he's like, I got to sort this out. And what he did is he seen an advert and he went to it. And it was a small room in Cathedral Road in Cardiff with some Chinese people. And they brought a pint glass out and asked him to urinate in it, and then topped it up with blackcurrant or Ribena. So he was like, really? And they said, really, just do it. Okay. So he said he drunk it, and he said that problem, he said, vanished that night. He said, in fact, he said I was better than I'd ever been before. So he said that he has it, puts it in the fridge. His wife puts up with it. And he's been doing it ever since. And he swears that, and this was a good 15 years before I heard anything from Dave, because my mother, when I was looking after her before she died, she was in a really, really bad way. And Dave contacted me on Facebook. I'll never forget. It was really kind of him, and said, look, Matt, I know it sounds outrageous, but maybe you should just try this. Maybe it'll do more than you think. So I had considered it, it was just convincing my mum to drink her own pee, because it sounds so, but so that's my evidence and my proof that there may be something in it. Is one of my friends said his life was turned around. There could be the placebo effect, but I really don't think so, because this stuff is golden, like the color of the sun, and people drink it if they run out of water. It's a backup supply. If a rabbit can eat its own poo, then I'm sure a human can drink its own pee. I think it's one of our survival mechanisms anyway. So we should be able to extract the nutrients and whatever is in it and the minerals. So I think, yeah, I don't know about doing it as a lifestyle. I don't think that would be, I would only consider it if I was, if the DMSO or my MMS didn't work or something, if there was something wrong. the bicarb or what have you, I was trying for whatever was ailing me. I was give it a go, because what have you got to lose, you know?
Another way to consider it is the homeopathic route. You know, there's
Yeah.
something called autonosodes, where let's say somebody's got a urinary problem, so they pee into a litre bottle, and then they empty it out, fill it up with a litre of water, empty it out, and if they do that 30 times, you've got a 30 times homeopathic remedy. You've literally put your own pee
Yeah.
in the bottle, and now you've rinsed it out 30 times. That's how you make a homeopathic remedy. And you can do that with pus. If you've got a skin issue, you could do it with saliva. If you've got a sort of digestive issue, do it with blood, do it with anything. And this was Hahnemann, the guy who invented homeopathy,
Okay.
discovered autonosodes. So a way to use the urine to fix yourself without actually having to drink vast quantities of it. But it does taste better from the fridge. When it's
Well,
warm, it's not.
I heard that. My nephew once stepped on a jellyfish in the beach in Palma, and he was told to pee on it straight
That's right.
away. And he said it neutralized the pain. He said he was in absolute agony, and when he peed on it, the pain calmed down. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's famous for that.
yeah,
So I remember Dave telling me just after he'd done it, that after 10 days, he was suddenly able to do yoga moves that he hadn't been able to do for 20 years. And then his wife commented on the pleasing differences. And
yeah, right.
and he was going to do it for 30 days. But on the 28th day, they arrested him for something. And so he never got to finish the last 2 or 3 days.
I'm with you. Yeah, I heard him say about his improvements. Yeah, once when he was talking about it on one of the hangout years ago. But yeah, he definitely had an improvement in himself. So that is a plus. So, it was,
I watched the Eric Dubé film,
well, yeah,
and it was very good. I thought it was about the best one I'd seen.
same year, same year. The only other one I can think of anyway was that, oh, what was it? Over the Beyond the Curve? I can't remember the name of it. Yeah. Which didn't sit pretty watching, if I'm honest with you. There was a lot of people I knew in there and stuff, but it was just them, wasn't it? Just hacking it up and chopping it and making us look stupid. But with this one, this is a completely different kettle of fish. This is us having a say, and Eric calling out Neil deGrasse Tyson. So I posted about this last night, and I showed Neil deGrasse Tyson responding, right, like only a day or two ago, to Eric Dubé's movie. Basically, Eric states in the movie there's that little bit when they were talking about space and it being impossible, etc. Blah blah blah. So he's talking to a guy on a podcast, a guy infinitely dense. It was just embarrassing. This guy, it was like literally. I mean, somebody said in my comments today, it was like literally listening to two kindergarten kids. They didn't know what they were talking about. They were just like, blah, 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 blah. So he was admitted that we've never been to space. Like the guy was like, what? It's like, no, only the Apollo missions have ever been to space and left low Earth orbit. Actually, the only things that are up there at all are in low Earth orbit and apparently falling away from the Earth and never actually hitting it. And this is how orbit works. Like, But so he's spilling the beans. But this is something that people just don't address. The fact that even in the official narrative, outside of Apollo, they lost all of its telemetry and all of its data and destroyed all of the evidence of any of this ever happening for some weird reason. And that's the only evidence that we had that they actually went to so-called space. But apparently they just turn around in the Cameron line and do nothing and go nowhere. And I don't even think that's a thing either. So yeah, they're changing the narratives, they're changing the paradigm, they're coming out with more and more, and they have to respond. I think that would be. I don't think Neil deGrasse Tyson or any of the TV physicists, Michio Kaku, Brian Cox, or any of these people would be able to be put with one of the flat earthers, especially Dave or Eric Dubé and the like, because they would destroy them. They would embarrass them. They're not practicing science for a start off, not how the scientific model actually works. So they will instantly be void at the beginning. because they will have the instant, they'll be going off the hypothesis or the presupposition this thing's a globe in the first place, and not at the standpoint of neutral. Let's have a look now, which is what science is supposed to be in a debate. But they don't do it. It's just close you down. We got photographs. Actually, no, you haven't. Well, no, we haven't. They have nothing to debate. Dave, we were in one convention years ago, 2018, a big convention in Birmingham, first big flat earthers convention in the UK. Dave was a speaker, I was a speaker myself. Martin Kenny, do you know Martin Kenny? Yeah, he was there as well, and Ira Landucci. Oh God, there was a load of people there. Anyway, cut a long story short. Oh, Dave spoke. I can't remember what he was talking about, but I just lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
You were talking about the first convention.
Yeah.
And you were going through a list of the people speaking there.
Mm.
But what you were thinking, I can't work it out.
I can't remember what I was relating it to. Damn. It'll come back. It'll come back to me. Anyway, so yeah. I've known Dave quite a while. He did the TV thing, didn't he, in Montenegro, which was absolutely brilliant. That was one of the seminal moments of the flat Earth. That was when Dave did that. Early on, before I actually knew Dave and met him, he was like flat Earth royalty to us. The first time I was actually on a hangout with him, I was really embarrassed. I was just embarrassed to talk and everything. I was like, oh wow, it's Dave Murphy, like. It's weird how things change. Now he's a mate. It's just strange with them all, actually. So
we create what we want, and that's what people need to realize. That
with this, I was trying to work out what the hell I'd done. What have I done? I've literally affected humanity, and I was like, I've woke up like millions, and I was trying to think and trying to work it out, why I was doing this. And first of all, I think that in 2015, when I first made my flat Earth video, I thought to myself, this is a God's honest truth. This is what I thought to myself. All right, I think I'll be flat Earth British because I think I'd be a good spokesman for British people because I'm totally British. Yeah, I'm very British type, old school, and I can trust me. I can be trusted with this, I thought to myself. I thought, I can't trust any of these, but I know I can trust me. And I know that I won't let them down and they can trust me. So I thought that at the beginning, see, yeah? So I thought, if I just do that and think that to myself, and then basically it's like if you stand up to the mark, Clive, and say, I'm going to be this, and I'm going to be this representative, and I'm going to speak, yeah? And it happened. It literally happened. It's like, okay, you're flat Earth British. We like you. You're one of us. We can see, because I've done millions of hours of YouTube. People have seen straight through me. They've seen me crying. They've seen me in grief. They've seen me ecstatic, in love, this, that, and the other. They've seen me in every way, over the last 6 years. And I've hid nothing. I'm just. So I guess people are following my life as well and my life adventure, because my life is a real fantastic adventure, has been the entire time, Clive. I grew up in the Merchant Navy. My father was a ship's captain. By the time I'm like 20, I'm like nobody. I've just spent my life at sea. But and then by the time I was old enough to go myself, 18 years of age, I joined the Merchant Navy. And that's where I spent my youth and my young life until I was felt that I was ready to settle down and have a family, basically, which is what I did. And that stopped me from going to sea. But that saved my life because it's an incredibly dangerous thing to go to the Merchant Navy when you're like me and from South Wales. Cardiff boy ransacking abroad is a very dangerous affair. Yeah.
So you keep completely healthy?
Completely healthy. I haven't had, I tell you now, I was a very sickly child. But that was the 1970s. I grew up in a very damp bedroom in a very damp council house with water running down the windows. And I was breathing sort of damp and black bloody stuff up on the walls in the corners. This was 1970s. Remember what it was like. And I guess we had sort of an insufficient diet. I always had sort of little white dots on my face or calcium scars on my nails. So I guess we were all sort of vitamin deficient then back then. Um, but I had like a weird lifestyle. It was an alternative lifestyle. I didn't have a normal family life. Far, far from it. Far from it. Um, so I had a really poorly childhood. I mean, I gangrene twice. They were going to remove my leg from the groin at one stage. I got a big hole in the side of my leg. I had gas gangrene, Clive.
Good God, how did that happen?
Well, I got pushed off the wall by one of my friends, and I landed on a broken milk bottle. And I'll tell you what happened now. I was only about 12 years old, and I was a little bit nervous, actually, about pulling my trousers down and saying, "Look at this, man." Yeah, on the side of my leg. And it was a big gaping hole, okay, where you could see my bone joint when I moved my leg, okay, my hip. So I left it and I just sort of tried to tend to it myself. I covered it over with tissue like a stupid boy. And I woke up one night, and that is the most pain I've been in my life so far. It's just the most excruciating, and the whole house stank. My mother ran in the room. She was like, "What?" She just knew instantly something terrible was happening. I was dying. And they rushed me in, and I gas gangrene. And they said it was advanced too. They pumped me full of antibiotics. They wanted to remove my leg. My mother wouldn't have it. I had it again then, years later, again with a milk bottle. Dropped it on my big toe, and it went gangrenous. Yeah, they removed the toenail, but yeah. I've had pneumonia twice. I've had measles twice. I had mumps, and everything I had exactly the same time as my sister, even when we were living in different cities. I mean, I had chicken pox when I was working in London, and my sister had it home in Cardiff, exactly the same week.
Well, it goes to show it's a frequency, a resonance, and not necessarily an infectious, contagious thing, as pretty much everybody in the world believes.
Exactly that. And that's my evidence for it. She got it in a different city. Exactly. I phoned her up. She's like, "Yeah, I come down with it this morning." It's like, "What?" It's like, how is that? I haven't seen you in a month or so. It's just like, yeah. Um, Chicken pox. So I was a very sickly child, and when I was in the merchant navy, I had some really bad accidents. So they like sort of. So I got some lingering pain. I got nerve damage basically down my left hand side, which is numb. It's no pain. It's a numbing pain, if that makes any sense.
Have you been to a corrective chiropractor who's done an X-ray to see if there's with this trapped nerve sort of thing?
Yeah, I have been to the hospital and I had X-rays, and they
I'm
have
not
had a
talking
look.
about the hospital.
They said that they could actually find anything with it,
When they did the X-rays, were you standing up or lying down?
like standing up.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, that's just that comes and goes at to Clive. It depends. That's the only thing that I ever get affected by. I haven't been ill in um 20, 25 years, anything. I am 54 this year. I can run around the field for hours kicking a football. I go for a jog. I'm more inclined to, if I'm going to go to the paper shop, yeah, yeah, is to take a trot still now. And I've always been a runner. If I was like 20, or if I was a young man, or even now, I would be more inclined to run to the shops rather than walk. I'm a runner. So I'm still like that now. I'm still wiry, still muscly, still fit, still completely active, and no different now to when I was 20 years of age. Only I would say that I'm better now.
That's very good indeed. Very good indeed. As somebody who looks after people's health, I don't hear that story that often.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, I'll tell you now. I come to I basically I got to understand or get my body's frequency. So there's a bit of a thing going on that I got used to it early. When they say when you live in your body for years and you get to maybe 40, 50, then you're comfortable with your body because you've been living in it a while. Yeah. Well, I got that early on, I think, and I got sort of in tune with my body's frequency. So it would tell me, my body, what I would need, maybe dietary or even not, to make sure that I would have well-being along the way. So I would always be like, not thinking consciously about being preventative of illness, because I didn't really think of it as a thing. I really didn't. I completely understood about the placebo effect. I understood how programming of minds worked. I understood how this entire paradigm worked years ago. You know, the fact that if I was going to a job in the 1980s on a damp double-decker bus in the cities of Britain, yeah, on a dark 9 o'clock morning, when you know you're going to be bullied by a horrible boss and your nose is streaming and you're feeling ill. That is what's made you ill, is that whole thing, yeah? You take yourself straight out of that environment, put yourself on a beach on the Costa del Sol, that would be gone in an instant. It was just the whole environment and the paradigm. It's the way that they treat us. These people now with breathing, mild hypoxia and breathing basically toxic liquids, which has proved to be, as I've read this week, really, really dangerous. Apparently, Legionnaire's disease has been discovered in these things, from the waterborne virus, where it's all just collecting. I think that might be a thing. But anyway, the whole thing of keeping our vibration down so that we get ill and we keep going back to the doctors so they can keep, giving us these drugs that we don't need to make money for big pharma. I won't go to the doctors again. I will always take care of myself. I got what I need, and I've got the information I need. And not that I expect at any stage to be ill, because I think disease is nothing more than that. Dis-ease, not ease for yourself. No, I knew Britain, yeah, was a country of hypochondriacs, Clive, yeah. The whole of the Western society is a bunch of hypochondriacs. All that they want to do is be fed information, as random and crap as it is, hold on to their little blankets, be left alone in their little worlds. They do not want reality to touch them. They're happy in that little sleep that they're all enjoying. But reality is now coming calling, and they're like, I don't want to. I want to go back. And unfortunately, that's never going to happen. So even the big sleepers have had a big shake-up. They're going to have a rethink about their lives too. Everyone's been sent home. Go and have a think about what you've done now, children. You've all been very, very naughty. Stay home for a year and have a think about it all. Okay. We'll come along later and we'll test you all and try and find out who's who, because we are definitely looking for someone. I think they're looking for someone. I think they're looking for somebody, is what I think they're doing with the tests. And anybody that willingly gets involved in any medical experiments, can't complain once it goes tits up, because it will. Since when did they have cures for influenza? I work in, I live in a city where for the last 25 years or last 30 years, they've been looking for the cure for the common cold, corona, and it's not possible, they said, and all of a sudden it's possible. And the trials and everything else, so it's just everyone's just taking part in like an experiment. Oh, I'm not really into that.
It is incredible that people will willingly take an untried, untested thing that isn't even a vaccine without even thinking about it. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows about the ferrets. Those ferrets they tested one of the vaccines on, and oh dear, they all died. And there's Moderna. They've never made a vaccine before ever. So not only is it untested, but this is the first time they've ever tried to do it. I mean, it's just beyond crazy. I mean, I think, that the planet is thinking along the lines of, well, if they're stupid enough to take an untested, untried experimental thing, then maybe they're the ones who aren't looking after the place. And maybe we should just give them the chance to sort of commit suicide, sort of thing.
Yes. Yes, I think you're right on the money there, Clive. Really, it's the wheat from the chaff time. It's just, what good are they to society? I'm just saying, if they're only like taking selfishly and greedy and just consumers, and these people, from the controllers who are ultimately psychopaths. Yeah, they don't really care about the people who are awake. They don't care about them either. But if they had the choice, I think that they, in some sort of cult, yeah, I think that these people who are, would happily stick their hand in their fire if they're told to. I don't think they would need them. I really don't. So I think it could be a wheat from the chaff thing, or the complete reverse. Because in the purges of Stalin, he got rid of all academics. So people who were independent thinking people, poets, writers, etc. All his generals, apparently. And it worked the opposite because it was a dumbing down thing for his state. But that can't happen now, not with the internet. It's too late. We have all the information freely available to us that academia has had to learn what we can.
Well, we do for a time, but I mean, the government told me in 2014, along with, I think it was 2014, along with UK Column, who I was working with at the time,
Well,
we'd got 24 hours to take all our videos down that we'd ever put up ever, or face £250,000 fine each. Not that any of us had £250,000 pennies, let alone pounds. And that was in 2014, 15, maybe
really?
it's 2013. I can't remember, but that time. And they said we were too television-like. That our programs. I mean, UK Column were unmasking all the paedophilia and stuff at that point.
Yeah.
So for a reason not to like us too much.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But people power overwhelmed it. Enough people were watching UK Column at that time that when we talked about, they're taking us down, so many people rang up the government quango who was doing it that we closed their switchboard down entirely. Then when they opened up again, they said, "Oh no, it was a sort of a technical error," but it took us months to put everything back up again.
Wow.
So they, the problem is for the poor YouTube viewers, they don't know what's gone. I mean, almost all my friends, probably all yours, who used to be on YouTube, aren't there anymore.
God, all gone.
I keep thinking, I haven't seen so and so in his videos for a while, and you don't know what you've got if it's gone to some degree, and so the people now think they're getting the full picture, but clearly they're getting an ever shrinking picture.
Agreed.
So, and then there is no one alternative. There's Rumble and BitChute and a million others. So now it's totally disparate. So, divide and rule has always worked, and it's working pretty well at the minute. But there are people, I mean, Dolores Carhill and Freedom Airways.
Yeah, I know of her. I know of Dolores Carhill. Yeah. She's been out years, hasn't she?
And, been speaking publicly in Ireland very forthrightly, but the Freedom Airways idea.
Yeah, I've seen some of that when it was happening. Yeah, brilliant.
But the countries that I thought one could fly to, and I'm sure it's totally coincidental, but those African presidents and the others dead. Very mysterious. At the moment they stand up against the World Health Organization, they accidentally die in some tragic fluke accident.
I missed that. Is that what happened? I know. I think it was the Ghanaian or the Nigerian.
The Tanzanian guy. Tanzania. He was the one who compared, tested a pawpaw and a goat, and they were all.
Oh, here, yeah.
Yes, they whacked him.
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just crazy. So, it's the craziest thing that all of the governments are actually in on this. And, there was only been like one or two rogue ones, like, Tanzania. What have they got over everybody? It's like, is no government independent anymore? It's just
apparently not. I mean,
no.
The ones like Gaddafi, who are actually relatively on the side of the people, they've pretty much managed to whack the lot of them.
Oh,
I think the really interesting one is Trudeau in Canada.
Yeah.
You've seen the photos of him and his dad, Fidel Castro.
Yeah, Castro, yeah.
They look identical.
100%. 100%. And doesn't it make sense as well, the way he lives his life and stuff? It has to be him. It has to be his. Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly they've got something on every corporate leader, every politician. They've caught them with their trousers down in one way or another. Yeah. And they'd never be in power if they hadn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's blackmail, setup, subversion. They got them in a whole number of ways. They set up the circumstances to grab these people anyway, so they can, they do it early on. A lot of people who are sniffed out who are really smart. They'll try and grab, as in colleges and universities. This is the way, it's gone in Oxford and Cambridge and places like that. Like the Oxford Footlights ended up, they were talented actors and comedians, and they ended up Tavistock's main chappies with the entire religious and historical paradigm for us for the 1980s. Monty Python, very clever stuff that was. But even with secret services and stuff, they sniff people out. They do headhunting. They headhunt smart people, people who are different, in different, I guess, fields. And this is what they do. So
The Israeli Secret Service tried to recruit me.
Mossad, they
Uh,
look after them apparently.
was,
I think it's all the same people, you know.
of
You know
course, it's all the same people.
uh,
But I had a sort of hobby, which was running a lie detector business, and we had a computerized lie detector system. You could use it covertly as a program on your computer, and you had voice analysis. And
right.
so if I had it on, which I haven't, I could tell what you, to a degree, I could tell what you're thinking. I could tell if you're being evasive, trying to hide something. I could tell if you're being hesitant. I could tell loads of things.
Wow.
And it was an Israeli invention. And what happened was that a friend of mine was the editor of the color supplement of the Evening Standard. And he'd written this article which talked about this lie detector, about the size of a packet of cigarettes. You could just hold it to the radio, for instance. You could hear that whether a politician was lying or not about what.
No way.
Yeah. And
Brilliant.
anyway, I rang him up and said, "This sounds an incredible device. You know, we could unmask corruption with this." And he said, "Oh, I made up the story." I said, "What?" "Yeah, they paid me like 600 quid. It was a total bullshit. He just made it up. Anyway, well, that's journalism for you, right? You
Wow.
don't,
Yeah, of course.
don't write anything true, do you? Anyway, so I'm really taken by this idea. I'm convinced it must exist. And then 2 weeks later, I read another article about this lie detector, the size of, but it really does exist. And I get quite excited, and I fly out to Israel to meet the young inventor.
Wow.
And he must have been about 21, 22. His dad was the head of mathematics at Tel Aviv University. So he was quite smart. Anyway, the two of them, the dad and he, had worked out how to make a lie detector work. And what had happened was that the son, the real inventor, the main inventor, he'd seen a woman come out of a cafe with a dead baby because of a bomb. And he decided that he was going to stop terrorism single-handed by simply making a lie detector that would say, "Are you a terrorist?" Right? That was the aim.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was in Shin Bet, which is the internal version of Mossad at the time. And so I'm in Tel Aviv trying to do business with this guy. And we're at a big restaurant outside, sunny evening, and his wife's there. And he's explaining that when he was with Shin Bet, how he would, they'd be having the prototype machine and they'd be testing him on it, see if they could catch him lying. And he also had one with the wife, and they were seeing how good it was. Anyway, he explained to me in front of his wife that he'd gone on a business trip to Japan and had slept with some girl. And yes. I could see the wife going, "Rrr." Anyway, he continues with the story. He says, "So me and the guys at work, they would ask me, 'Have you ever been unfaithful to your wife?' And he'd say, 'No, never.' And after a couple of weeks, he could beat the machine. Anyway, so one night he's with testing it out with the wife, and she says, 'Have you ever been unfaithful to me?' And he goes, 'No,' lie. And he discovered that you can fool the machine after a while, but you can't fool your wife."
Yeah. Wow. They say, like, I watched a series, The Bates Motel, and they put him on a lie detector, and the idea is that a psychopath who is devoid of empathy would have no emotional response and would not trigger the machine.
Yeah.
And he put it to practice because he was a pure psychopath and didn't care really, in one way or another, and no response when they asked him these questions. He was like, because he detached, he put it to another personality. Yeah. It was another person.
So we were presented with a lot of cases like this.
Right.
And the thing was that with the old-fashioned polygraph lie detector, you've only got about 5 questions. You've got to be, and a couple of those are going to sort of qualify. So you've got very little chance with a psychopath or with a lie detector to catch anybody with anything. A lot of it is that it frightens them and they tell the truth.
Yeah.
Anyway, but with our one, the more you question them, the more you could hone in on it. And our biggest customer in the end was insurance companies who would, and what they would do, people think that if they do an insurance fraud, which is a massive thing, right? That that they might get caught and taken to court and sent to prison. This is never going to happen. That's not how insurance companies work.
Exactly.
They definitely don't want publicity about a scam that's worked. So what they want to do is to frighten you away. And so this is how it worked. Well, I met the boss of one of the biggest insurance companies in England. He said, you know, there are more Rolex watches stolen every year than have ever been produced in the history of the factory ever, because everybody, I know, I'll claim a Rolex watch. So the moment they get a Rolex watch claim, they know it's almost certainly fraud.
Yeah.
Right? So what we could do with the lie detector is we could sort of trap somebody like into a corner where they're caught. They know they're caught. They can't come up with a receipt and all these things. And what they'd say then is, well, this is very, very serious. And my supervisor's gone home now, but you're going to have to speak to my supervisor. I'm going to give you their number, and you're going to ring them in the morning.
Yeah.
You will do that, won't you? And you can always hear the relief on the other. I think I might have got away. What if I don't phone them back? And you never hear from them again, which was the result. There was no claim, no money lost by the insurance company.
Wow.
And but you could use it for negotiation, right? So let's say you want to buy a house, and it's £100,000. You could say, well, would you accept 60,000? And they say, no, I'm telling the truth. Would you accept 70,000? No, telling the truth. Would you accept 80,000? Then you see hesitation. And 85,000, and they say no, but it's a lie. It's a lie. So they would. Anyway, I got out of the business because it got too dirty.
Yeah, right.
What happened was all my friends wanted to use the lie detector, right? All of them.
Bet.
And I would almost never let them, because they all wanted to know whether the husband or wife had been faithful or not. And I'd say, look, your relationship is like that, you're in the wrong relationship.
Yeah.
Or you're paranoid. So I'd never let anybody do it, except once, and I regretted it, because the person found out something they didn't want to know.
Oh dear. See, that's the problem, isn't it? Or if a couple, split up and didn't really reconcile because of it, so.
But why I really got out of it was the UK government. They wanted to use it on us. Right, and it made
that same technology on the phones, even to see if you're lying on the phone.
Yeah, it works over the phone.
Wow.
And the technology is better now than it was. This was over 20 years ago. The technology is a lot better now. But I got taken out to the RAF club by this Top Gun Israeli pilot, and he said, you know, that the technology now is that, out in the Middle East, there's no insulation in the roofs. There's usually just single tiles. And said, now, if our target is sitting on the top floor and of a single tiled roof, we can, from a high flying aircraft, we can look through the tiles and read what they're reading.
No way.
Now, the technology is incredible. 40 years ago, a friend of mine was working for the military, and he brought this little glass thing. And I said, what's that? And he said, it's a lookout for a tank that we're developing.
Oh, right.
And it was fiber optic cables, which were then 40 years ago quite new things, stretched, put together in a bundle, stretched, put together in a bundle, stretched. And what happened was that you got a large area of glass at one end and then a tiny little point of glass on the outside of the tank. And you could see the whole vision crystal clear.
Wow.
And the image was floating on the surface.
Yeah.
And so, the tech that they've got is really very, very interesting indeed. I can't remember why I got onto the lie detector.
Highly interesting. That is a field that is so interesting. The applications for it as well, like you said, obviously I considered insurance fraud as the first application.
Well, I thought everybody would want it, but of course nobody wanted it. This was the surprise for me, and I realized how dishonest most people are, because they all got secrets tied. I'd say it to me, when I first thought, this is just fantastic, right? Nobody can lie anymore. I rang up John Pilger, the investigative journalist. I said, I found this fantastic thing. And he said, don't be ridiculous. You know, they're speaking, therefore they're lying. Why do you need to know? But, but I used it at work for a year on everybody, including my mum.
Wow, we should have had one for my mum.
That was enlightening.
I bet.
It was enlightening. You have to be super careful not to take it personally, because it was about the interpretation of what they say. And
Right,
it wasn't as simple as you just buy the machine and you plug it in and there's all the answers. You know, somebody might say, really looking forward to seeing you next week, and it's a lie. Now, you could take that quite personally, but it may be that actually before they're meeting you or just after they're meeting you, they're having a really nasty thing going on. And what they're saying, they're not looking forward to the whole day. It didn't have to do with you personally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man.
So you had to really interpret things because not everything is as clear and sharp.
Tricky, that one.
But I mean, I never used the. It did switch me on to Who's Who a bit. You know, who's lying.
I tell you who does use a lie detector. A type of lie detector is the Scientologists. When they join it, there's a thing they hold with the two electrodes, and there's a needle, and it's they say it's a type of lie detector, and they do some sort of marking full questionnaire on everything in their lives and mark this stuff down and then blackmail them later.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yes, some of the organisations out there, I think it was Rajneesh's lot.
Yeah.
They were the biggest ecstasy smugglers and manufacturers in the world at one point. Mm-hmm. You know how they did? They'd hire a whole 747, and they would get. They wouldn't hire the 47, but they would get their own people to book every seat on the plane, or as many as possible. Wow. And they knew that out of 360 people off the plane, something like 8 would be caught and questioned. But the other 340 that they were all smuggling would get through, and that they would, compensate the people who ended up in prison. I mean, it's just outrageous. This went on for ages.
That's just insane. Yeah, I watched that film Mr. Nice not so long ago, a couple of days ago, about Howard Marks, the Welsh wizard. And it was just an incredible story. Actually, he was wanted at one stage by the British government, the IRA, the FBI. It was like everyone in the world was trying to get him. But what a fantastical story, and it's all provable, all true. It's crazy. But yeah, he was an agent, and they sort of let him go. He blagged it in court by bringing it up and said, "Actually, I was undercover, and I was so undercover that I had to become a drug dealer for the British government, of course." It's just like, and he blagged that one. He did blag that one. He got away with it.
It's an interesting character for sure. And the strange thing was, for a cannabis smuggler, that when he got cancer, he didn't use cannabis as the remedy.
He was. I thought he'd completely lost the plot towards the end, because I had a lot of respect for him. And then he's on the stage, doing this live thing that he was doing before he died. And he's like bragging, like if it's cool to have a messed up lungs. I've been smoking for like 40, 50 years. It's like, yeah, and he's like, and my chest is effed. He's going. So, and he brings out a bottle of G's Linctus. Now, this is not good to be showing people. This to me is like, no. And he drinks it on stage. And I thought, oh, this guy's just a fool. I can imagine how he's lived his lifestyle. If he's doing this later on, he's not going good, is what I thought at the end. And I watched the documentary shortly before he died, when he went up to his farmhouse in Kenwick Hill, which is just up the road from here. And he said that he only smoked black hashish, the Afghani stuff. So the source that he had in that movie, them Arabs, he obviously still had it in the modern day. It kept it on going. But a fantastical story of how somebody could supply, 3/4 of the world's cannabis supply. And more or less get away with it, more or less. When he went to university, to prison, he opened a university and educated them all. He had lawyer skills.
when I was young, I must have been about 20, maybe something like that. No, anyway, something like that. I had this girlfriend who was this incredibly old woman, like she was 28,
Wow.
and at 20, that was almost like going out with your granny. And she said, I only work 1 week a year. I said, really? It caught my attention right away. I said, how's that? And she said, well, as you know, I come from Canada, she said, and we're on a remote farm where to get through the cold winter, obviously we have a canning machine and we can all the fruit and vegetables we can, and we, ferment things and hang things up in the air to dry, and legs of pork or whatever it is. And she said, so what I do is I take my tin canning machine, they're quite small, and about 20 tin cans out to India, and I buy the best hashish I can, and I put it in the tins, and I steam the labels off similar sized tins and put them together, and I make a big Christmas hamper, giant wicker basket hamper with loads of lovely things in and my tins. So if you just do it just before Christmas, they can't X-ray and see what's in the can, and they're not going to open it because it's so obviously a Christmas hamper and it's a gift. So I thought that's a good idea.
Ka-ching. Yeah, that is.
So I went out to India. Anyway, never mind.
It's enough for her to keep it going just for that one little trip a year. Yeah, and she
Well,
knew, she knew that was.
People need to use their imagination when it comes to money.
Definitely, I agree with that completely. Yeah, that's a good story. I love that. Yeah.
So, what I'd quite like to discuss is health in relation to what's going on right now and what people could and should be doing, because a lot of people are very frightened by some of the people at the moment who are saying we're all going to die, basically, because the virus is shedding and we're all going to die. That's basically what people like Christine Northrup and various ones are being super scary out there. And it's very convincing what they're saying. And of course, who knows?
I'm not in the field of actually thinking we're alive in the first place. Yeah, it's like me and my son got a joke going. It's like, oh, I'm dead, and I'll go, oh, I'm deader than you. It's just we don't know what we're even frightened of, and I'm not anymore. I wasn't anyway. I've had this weird thing about me my entire life where I just been killed over and over again. Yeah, I'm still here for something. So I don't really worry. I don't think about that. And this element of fear is part of the mechanism. Yeah. It's either anything from demonic possession through to they just don't know what they're doing. But I'm telling you what, this darkness is right in people, and I can see it in their eyes. Brother, I seen somebody the other day I thought I knew, and their soul, it was missing. It was like, where are you gone? What happened? And they'd taken the jab. It's like almost destroyed their souls. It's something maybe to calm them down, maybe make them more receptive to, fruitless endeavors in life. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, the fear mongering is something that people have to avoid. It's simple. It's quite simple. Don't listen to the television. Don't listen to the radio, or don't look at mainstream media. Find out for yourself if anything they're saying is true. The first thing I found out, and I never knew all of this before, Clive, was that, it wasn't necessarily true. Louis Pasteur's germ theory, and it's actually just a theory. And then when I looked into the alternative ideas that were flying around at the time, and then the idea of it being more likely to be some sort of toxic excretion, and it's more likely to be some sort of poisoning. And then I fitted that together with why I was ill all the time at the same time as my sister. It's not because we were breathing one another's air at all. It's because I was sharing the same towel and the same cups and the same plates and stuff. I was getting these toxic excretion on me, which was poison. And this is the way DNA deals with it's a purging process. It's part of us anyway. It proves anyway, Clive, this all rubbish, because you can go into a freezing river, which I've done many times, yeah, and come out shivering, gone back home, 2 mile walk in soaking wet clothes, and then the day after you're aching all over and you're stinking cold. So what? I contracted the stinking cold from what exactly? The river breathed at me. You can't. These contagions and these saying that these germs are again indivisible, just like radiation. You can't see it. The nuclear scare for all of our lives, most of our adult lives, Clive, has been, the fear of nuclear war, and how quickly they disappeared that. Like it doesn't matter anymore. There's no words of, dismantling all of these nukes they were supposed to have, or all of these Minuteman missiles or ICBMs they were supposed to have. No word of it at all. It's just over. I've got one of these installations in a field near to me. You can walk around it, a nuclear installation with telephones and all of that. The were there, and they've just left them to ruin. Like we haven't got nothing to worry about anymore. Everyone's fine now. So, they use that against us. It's exactly the same sort of thing they're doing now. Another dialectic is the good old fashioned health scare. They've used this before, but never to this success, and not the entire world on it as well. In the Spanish flu, the entire world wasn't on it, and they didn't send 80% of the workforce of Earth home on wages for a year either the last time.
It's so incredible. I mean, it's just like you really couldn't make it up. If I think you said you thought it'd be well. I thought it'd be better. I genuinely thought at the beginning of this last year that by now people would have seen through it, and I'm deeply shocked that they haven't. Yeah, it's quite a surprise, but so many people are getting ill. I mean, I put up a video, must be a couple of months ago now, of the mother of somebody I know who had got taken the jab and immediately got kidney failure, and it was just ghastly. And so I put the video up about this 2 minutes before YouTube took it down.
Yeah.
I mean, they deliberately are covering up. I mean, they're just part of the big genocide.
Well, yeah. Well, look on Max Egan posts, and they always cutting his down. With that guy with the saying that his, the test, he'd had this thing up the nose, and 2 days later dies of a brain hemorrhage when he had nothing like this ever before. And maybe there is something in these masks fibers anyway. They are very fibrous, aren't they? Not that I've ever touched one, but they look a bit fibrous, and maybe there is something in them.
I certainly wouldn't allow them to stick something up my nose. And I mean, the ridiculous thing is, if it was really infectious, then they could take a swab from your mouth. I mean,
obviously,
yeah. Again, I've put videos up of people who've been in screaming pain after they've pushed the test up too far. And again, where have they gone? They're just off YouTube. I've got to be super careful now. So
yeah, I agree. Me and my friends in the Fat Earth British think tank, we were wondering after the first time it was all locked down, and we came back out and everybody was missing. We thought, are they all gone? Have they done something sneaky in the night and everybody's gone? Or is everybody just getting some sort of raptures out of here? Because everyone seems to have not gone back to life. Where is everyone? But it's really strange. It is too trippy to even mention, Clive. But I get this weird feeling when I'm out. It's like, I'm not in the same place I used to. Everyone is sort of reverting back to not only 1970s fashions and tastes, but their mentality. It's just like this hive mind where they're all like, it's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It really, really is. It's like they're all hive mind together in this one single narrative of this make-believe illness, and they're fighting for it. At this stage, it's like advanced Stockholm syndrome or something completely new. I think it was some sort of magic they've done on them, a spell, I don't know. But there's millions awake, Clive. There's millions.
Well, exactly.
Tens of millions.
What we need to do is us, the people who are awake, need to make sure that we can get together properly, because the thing that's missing is a coherent group of us. That whether we're, believe in X or Y, it's immaterial. That we're beyond that and are a coherent group saying no, and we'll look after ourselves. Thank you.
Yep, and that's what we're doing. Yeah, we are learning all of the skills that we need. Everything I've tried to release, my first book, etc., which is like the keys, to a new beginning. Everything we need, with free energy and water technologies, and health technologies. You know, I definitely think water is the key to all of this. If we could just nail or structure the water.
Well, I mean, structuring water is not that difficult. I mean,
No, I know. No, I know.
you know about the fourth stage of water
Yeah,
between.
I've been practicing it for quite some time before all of this. I got a thing about water. Maybe it's because I had, you know, an upbringing at sea, maybe. But I've been triple vortexing and magnetizing water for quite some time now, and trying that. And you know, like with my diet, right? I try to eat carefully and I try to eat right, okay? And I don't eat processed foods. But the same token, every time I eat, I get that full feeling, okay? And I don't like it. I'm like, I feel all bloated out and I don't feel like I feel energized away and my vibrations all off now, you know?
Well, then I would suggest that either you're eating food that's not right for you, you know, or, I mean, how much of what you eat is organic, do you think?
Well, I had 2 organic eggs this morning on some nice thick bread.
Okay,
But
well,
I
if
tell you what,
bread,
it just didn't agree with me. The bread was wholemeal.
okay, that you made yourself or you bought?
No, I made it myself.
Okay, with organic flour and the rest.
Oh no, I didn't make the bread. Sorry, no, no, I got that in the supermarket. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I know, I
that's
know.
probably the problem. I mean,
Probably.
uh, the, generally speaking, bread now is 40% soya, right? And you don't want to be a soy boy. So soya is obviously a hormone disruptor, and we think it's like 100% wheat, you know. But I'm willing to bet that if you look on the label, it's not 100% wheat.
Hormone disruptor to what regard? What do you mean?
Oh well, soya is a product that really nobody should be eating unless it's fermented. You know, in Korea and Japan and so on, nobody ever ate soya. You know, they would eat fermented soya in the form of soy sauce or whatever,
Yeah.
and they would make soya using magnesium chloride to make tofu, and then they'd throw away the liquid, which they now sell as soya milk. It's always been thrown away forever.
Wow.
Like they take hemp seeds and they crush the oil out, sell that, and then they sell hemp protein, which is the crap that they used to throw in the bin, to unthinking hippies.
Wow.
So there's a lot of connery going on.
There is. There is.
I lost the plot there as to what we were talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Um,
Zoned out there. No, it's highly interesting stuff. You're into some good fields there. Really interesting stuff.
but you know, you're saying that we're mainly water. Well, actually, we're mainly hydrogen. If it really comes down to it, we're roughly 60% hydrogen, 2% minerals and vitamins and stuff.
Okay, I'd agree.
But we're mainly hydrogen. So recently, I've been working with Brown's gas. You know, the stuff you can run your car on by splitting water by electrolysis into.
Yeah, I've spoken about this on my vlogs.
I mean, this has been going on since the 80s or something, Yul Brown. And anyway, somebody I know was working with Yul Brown, and they'd been selling hydrogen electrolyzers since the 80s. And anyway, people started telling him that they were breathing it, and it was, curing stuff. And for 10 years, he just thought they were nuts. And then his wife gets ill, and he thinks, well, maybe there's something in it, breathing this hydrogen oxygen split. And then they discovered that when they were measuring it, there was more gas coming out than a physics equation could account for. And they realized, a bit like the fourth stage of water, that they were creating a new gas.
Yeah.
Hydrogen wasn't oxygen, but it was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I get that.
Anyway, Brown's gas is known as hydroxy. And with the whole Wuhan thing in China, they were using respirators, and obviously most people died on the respirators, and hydrogen oxygen mixture, and nobody died. Nobody died. Anyway, they were just using more primitive technology, but the hydroxy machines cost about £2,500 or something, and they're halfway through NHS trials to get them into hospitals at this point, because they already use technology like this in the heart wards in certain circumstances. Anyway, the point that I'm getting to is that people with Parkinson's, video after video is coming out now, 2 hours after inhaling the hydroxy, which is 100% safe, their shaking stops.
Wow.
Now, that's not to say that can't be done other ways. It can be done with pulsed electromagnetic frequencies.
I've seen it done with cannabis
Exactly.
oil.
I was about to say cannabis is the other one, but without going to the conceivable illegality of it, breathing hydroxy gas is super interesting. And it's interesting for a load of other things. All sorts of people are getting benefits essentially by realizing they are hydrogen and oxygen. And so by breathing more of it.
H2O though, H2O is not too far away.
Yeah.
I know.
So anyway, so I just mentioned that, the technology stuff has always interested me. I mean, I use the prime technology I use was invented, first shown by Tesla in 1893.
Yeah, I seen you had a Tesla electromagnetic device for therapy, yeah?
I've got lots of them actually.
Yeah. Electromagnetic therapy is something that they don't, it is practiced now, but I mean, back in the days of Tartarian days, Victorian days, everybody was practicing this. Everyone used to have electric corsets, electric bath. Wow, look at that. Oh, that's so juicy. I love the look of that.
These were in every hospital pretty much in the world.
Wow.
And this was written out of history, totally written out of history. And this had two purposes. You could do surgery with it, and you could do surgery using electricity for surgery. It doesn't bleed. They still use, it's called diathermy, that one, and they still use diathermy in ophthalmic optics. So if you're cutting the eye, bleeding could blind you.
Right.
So when you use electricity to cut, it cauterizes it, and there's no bleeding. And surgeons still use it, but what the surgeons today don't know is that prior to the Second World War, these were used commonly to cure people of pretty much anything, because what you're doing with that machine, I mean, it's a giant Tesla coil and a couple of other coils and stuff. Right. And what you're doing is you're pumping electrons into the body, into the cells. So when you exercise, you're creating electrons. Yes. When you walk barefoot on the surface of the planet, you're picking up electrons. When you take vitamin C or selenium or antioxidants, you're creating electrons. So these machines are pumping in electrons like nobody's business, right? So people can get well very, very fast. So of course that didn't suit the doctors.
No, of course not.
Or the big pharma. So the story of it is, with that machine, that by 1910, they were super common now, getting really well known. And that one there was built in 1931. And but what happened around that time is radio came out, and these interfered with radio. And in fact, the only reason I'm not turning it on now is it'll almost certainly crash the internet.
Is that so?
Yeah.
There's that much of a torus around it creates?
Well, the powerful things, I mean, you can convert one of these into a radio transmitter. And one of the many reasons that they all disappeared in the Second World War is the governments were afraid they'd the Germans, so to speak, would use them for transmitting purposes.
Of course.
But the main reason they disappeared was because they interfered with radios. So they switched it, this is long wave, they switched it to shortwave, and it took quite a lot of deaths for them to realize that shortwave wasn't working.
Well. Of course, yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That is mad.
And then the technology kept on changing. I mean, this one, you get the frequency with spark gaps. There are literally 4, if I turned it on, it'll make a huge crackling noise and there'd be sparks all over the place, and you could just turn the knobs and change the frequency that way. But basically you just have it set once and that's pretty much it. And sometimes they'd get the patient to lie down on a bed, and that bed would be made of metal with rubber on top.
Right.
So the body would be the condenser, and they'd hold one.
Wow.
And then use the body as a condenser. Or you could, let me turn on one that isn't going to blow the internet.
Right. Fantastic, thanks. Oh, they look fabulous.
Let me just turn some lights off, and then you'll appreciate what's going on a bit better. So if I demonstrate on myself.
No way.
Can you see that?
Yes. That is brilliant. Oh, fabulous.
And so there's basically one for every ailment you could think of.
No way. Oh, that's fantastic. What's it feel like?
Well, if I hold it,
Like a plasma lamp, tickly maybe? Oh, this is fantastic. Wow, I bet they're pricey.
If I hold it away from my hands, you can maybe, it's quite painful. You can probably see the sparks jumping. Can you see that?
Yeah, definitely. That's brilliant.
So what's interesting about this is what's really going on. So you've got a Tesla coil in the handle resonating with a Tesla coil in the control unit. And
fantastic.
Unlike a light bulb, where you'd have a positive and a negative.
Is this a modern piece, or is this?
No, this is from the 20s.
Wow, really?
So this one only has one terminal. It's not positive and negative. It's just all positive.
Okay.
And when you have a linear source of electricity like this, some people would call it scalar energy.
Yes, I would.
Scalar wave. And but what you're looking at is very, very high voltage, thousands and thousands of volts, and very low ampage. Now, the thing about high voltage, if it's low ampage, is if you hold the positive and negative, say, in your hand, it feels great.
Okay.
Above about 5,000 volts, it's like a sunny day on a nice deck chair. Yeah, it's warm. Oh, it's lovely. Because after a certain frequency, it no longer can affect the nerves anymore and electrocute yourself because the frequency is too high. So, in 1891, Tesla was touring around Europe and was teaching people about what he was doing, because he was, Tesla, along with inventing radio control and stuff like that, basically was the father of gas-filled glass electrodes.
Yeah.
And he was making them in the 1880s. And what he noticed was that around these incredibly high frequencies, his staff, who maybe had injuries, were all getting well. Right? We're all getting well around massive high voltage, high frequencies.
This is amazing.
So near the end of his life, he said that he really regretted not doing more work in the health field. But he invented 3 devices. And one of them is the design of ozone generator we still use today.
Yeah. I have friends that have ozone generators.
They're still Tesla's design. They haven't managed to improve it since.
All right. Okay.
And he invented the diathermy, which is basically in 1891, when he was explaining it to people, different scientists took up his work. And although there was a Tesla company making devices, really got taken over. Other people were, Tesla's concentrating on other things. And so by, again, 1910, these high frequency devices were in the chemist shop. They were in the pharmacy. They were, you imagine before transport on the big scale, if you lived on a farm and somebody, well, what were you going to do? Right. So if you had a battery or you had electricity, you could buy your own set at home. Like the big one was for hospitals, but people could buy the small ones to use at home. And again, the industry was getting quite upset. So, but by 1915, dentists were using them. they were teaching this at hairdressing school for regrowth of hair. You know, you pump electrons, and in the case of the glass versions, photons, into a body, the cells repair rapidly.
Generate.
I've,
And what does it do for the mind? You know, for the elasticity of the brain, for the synapses, the electrical synapses in the mind. Does it, you know, do you have, you know, extra concentration? Do you feel calmer? You know, does it have a mental effect as well as a physical?
That's one of the areas that I haven't really looked at particularly.
And I know you use electricity when they do, you know, when they used to do electromagnetic, you know, electro treatment like lobotomies and stuff, and you know, to, you know, this shock would, you know, basically the person would come out of it and they would say, I feel absolutely fantastic. And they would no longer be a manic depressant. You know, they used it. You know, it was frowned upon, the sort of treatment, wasn't it? For these two, you know, two electrodes on sides
still
of it.
doing it. They're still doing it
They're still
now.
doing it. Okay.
Because, you know, it's like kill or cure a bit. You either fry them or it works.
Yeah.
But I was surprised to find out how often it actually works. But I mean, that's savage. You know, that's power.
Well, that's why it was frowned upon, because it does seem savage. But like from what I've researched and what I've seen, you know, that people came away saying they felt fantastic and renewed. But it was like a chiropractor. You had to keep going back. These effects wore off. You know, so you know, like a chiropractor, you got to keep going back, or your back's bad again.
How good they are.
It depends how good they are. Okay.
And not only that, but I mean, the reason a back would come out is poor diet. You know, anybody who's got arthritis, slip disc, problems with their back, whatever, at one level they're doing it to themselves because their
It's
back.
very posture, isn't it? Is it to do with posture or slouching or?
But that doesn't help.
No.
And it is good to hold yourself upright and breathe properly and all that.
Yeah.
But I mean, people think, oh, I've got a slip disc, you can't repair, or I've got arthritis, you can't repair that. Yes, you can.
Yeah, you can. I 100% believe you can repair anything. I 100% believe.
But you need to go back to a chiropractor. A good chiropractor will teach you how to not come back by telling you, well, look, you're low on magnesium. I mean, for me, you know, I was in the contact lens business for years.
Interesting.
And one day, I was about 30, and I had some spots on my face through stupid eating, right? And I made the biggest mistake ever, which turned out to be the best thing ever. I went to a doctor who said, I'm going to give you an antibiotic for that. What they should have said is stop eating out at the sandwich bar, you know, and stop eating Mars bars. But they said, I've got an antibiotic for that. Anyway, I got really ill from the antibiotic. So ill that after a while I couldn't walk anymore, couldn't go upstairs, couldn't drive the car. And I got arthritis so badly, you would have thought I was 80, right?
Wow.
And then I got type 1 diabetes, and it just got worse and worse. And then I'm in hospital, and then I'm in the observation ward, and I'm in trouble, right? I'm in serious trouble.
Wow.
And it's just getting worse and worse. And they say, well, there's nothing we can do. And they say, well, we can give you drugs. And I said, I'm not low on drugs. I'm not short on drugs. That's not the problem. Not taking your drugs. I refused. Anyway, after about 3 weeks, I figured out what was wrong with me. And I figured out that the antibiotics had damaged my ability to absorb minerals and vitamins and stuff. So my wife kindly wheeled me out in a wheelchair, and I started taking vitamins and minerals and stuff. And it took some time, but all the arthritis went away. It's 35 years ago plus. All the arthritis went away.
And you were in a wheelchair, and it was that bad. You just couldn't
Well,
walk.
I couldn't. It was way too far for me to have walked from
Wow.
the hospital out to the car. I couldn't have done it. Couldn't.
What a turnaround.
I couldn't get dressed anymore. Didn't have the power or the capability to undo buttons.
That's unimaginably horrible.
It's so funny. What happened was that you'd think, oh, how you wouldn't even want to live. But the funny thing was, you know, I would have bet money that if I was now bedbound, couldn't get dressed, you know, stranded whale, that I wouldn't want to live. But no, nothing changed about the will to live. Yeah, even though I was, you know, to use a technical term, totally fucked. I still wanted to live just as badly as I ever did. And you get used to it. Right away, I sort of got used to how life was. Anyway,
Wow.
I got better. Then my dad's best friend, who was a New York banker, got cancer for the second time and was given like 12 weeks to live. And he knew what I'd done, and he did it even better. And he rang up Linus Pauling, who we found in the New York phone directory, and Linus Pauling said, take 35 grams of vitamin C in small divided doses every day. So he's got 12 weeks left to live. He does 35 grams of vitamin C every day, and one or two other things. He lived another 20 plus years.
Shrink, gone. Yeah.
And
It's just fabulous. It's just fabulous. I've seen a few of these, different alternative ways of people getting rid of cancer. I've seen some evidence with the bicarb method, and about a year ago, Max Egan posted this guy who he knew, and he'd given him just some CBD oils and some cannabis oils, and went there a short time later, and it reduced a hell of a lot. But when all of that was happening, I thought, this is fantastic news, because a close friend of mine, her brother was suffering with cancer at the same time and was really poorly. So I thought, well, this is really good news. So I was getting loads of CBD, and I given it to my friend. She was giving it to her brother, but unfortunately, he didn't make it. He didn't really last long. So it wasn't guaranteed. But I've seen some
there's
evidence
always a
out there.
reason. It's not like there is a cure.
No.
And just for legal purposes, if I mention the word cure or cancer, I'm
Yeah,
spelling with a K.
agreed. Yeah,
I'm spelling with a K. I'm not talking about the thing that most people might think of, right?
yeah, exactly.
And everything I say is a joke, made up, not real, not to be taken seriously. I'm not giving medical advice, and it's all fiction, just have a laugh. So, if somebody's got to the stage of cancer or a serious disease, they've been getting it wrong for a while, right? They've been eating the wrong foods, thinking the wrong thoughts, drinking the wrong water, married to the wrong person, whatever it is. It could be the fact they're
All of those. I love you said that. Thinking the wrong thoughts with the wrong person. It all adds to it. Yes.
It's going to be. There's always a reason. Nothing happens without a reason,
No.
or a set of reasons. So to think that if I just take this, I'll be cured, it's not quite as simple as that.
No.
About 15 years ago, I was studying cancer survivors. I wanted to know what they were doing right.
Okay.
And the survival rate long term is like 3%, and it's not as good as people think. And doctors lie about statistics. They use relative risk versus absolute actual risk. Anyway, but did you know that when doctors go on strike, less people die?
No, I completely believe it. Everything that has gone wrong with me in my life has been through the doctors. Okay, same as yourself. Not there to cure you or help you. Yeah, I know this now.
Well, the emergency room doctors, I give them a lot of credit. And at one point,
they do a good job because they have to.
I was working in the field of brain surgery, and I watched some brain surgeons. I used to sit in on brain operations, do stuff that was beyond,
fantastical.
Yeah, just marvelous. The most caring. I'm not saying every surgeon is. A lot of surgeons are psychopaths, but I worked with one particular surgeon who was like an angel. He would get through.
Well, you're bound to get them. Yeah, they can't all be like that. Like you say, you expect them to be a bit psychopathic to be in that field in the first place. It's a very strange thing to get into. But
one way to look at cancer is there is no cure because you are the cure.
Yeah, I completely agree. I 100% agree. Yeah, this is like, I can't emphasize the placebo effect enough. I've read once this guy was given a tablet and said this will cure you and everything will go away by the doctor. He went away, took it, absolutely fantastic. I'm cured. And then he's seen some sort of expose on the internet saying that this medication is like snake oil and it hasn't been doing the job. And he instantly started getting ill again. Went back to the doctor. The doctor said, no, that's the misinformation. This stuff has worked fine. Oh, really? Yeah. Gave it back to him again. So he went through this up and down, getting it and not getting it, just from being told. Just from being told alone.
Well,
so,
absolutely true.
People don't believe in themselves enough, I don't think, if belief is the word. But, when you really trust your insides and that you can sort things out. And that one is something that is an external cause. Like you say, the situation, the partner, always on a down vibration. Can you imagine if you're living like that, how it will solidify and be in the inside of your body, all that badness? That's going to happen, So yeah, it's definitely like down to lifestyle. There's no doubt about it. And this, and the brain.
Well, I've seen the placebo effect work several times. The most the most fabulous thing happened. I had this guy, and he'd got visual problems, couldn't see well. His memory had brain fog, and he was in pain. So at that point, I was working with 4 frequency devices, which I'd wired them all up together. And I explained to him, look, I'm going to be giving you 4 frequency devices at once.
Nice.
And everything's going to be brilliant. So I treat him for an hour, and everything's fixed. And he's my happiest client I had that year. And I just look over and I've realized I hadn't switched it on. I've forgotten to switch it on.
Wow.
Completely him, right? Completely him. Eyesight, brain, pain. And I hadn't switched the machine on. I mean, it was, and it's like a clinching moment, if you like. There's a great book called Mind Over Medicine by Dr. Lisa Rankin, and she's got a couple of 100 examples of it. There are examples like the famous knee experiment. You know, when people have a knee replacement, it's pretty much a standard thing. You know, everybody gets the same plastic knee or whatever it is. Anyway, they had 200 patients. 100 of them had the real operation. The other 100 were wheeled into the operating theatre. Everybody's there, gowned up, all the monitors are on, given the anaesthetic. Now, most people don't know, but you actually come out of anaesthetic every now and then, just very slightly to make sure you're safe. Like people actually wake up very slightly in their sleep to make sure they're safe. Anyway, so they've got the real operation going on videotape. So they don't know that they're not being operated on. If they do wake up slightly out of the anaesthetic, it all appears real, right? They did the cut, right? The 100 that doesn't get the operation, they get the cut. So afterwards, when they compare in the recovery, nobody knows whether they've had the real operation or not. Who gets better, faster, quicker? The ones who didn't actually have the artificial knee. I mean, it's just, what?
Oh my days.
So some of the statistics are beyond. So you're absolutely right. The mind is absolutely crucial to it because we are what we think. You know, we are what we eat,
no doubt
think
about
and
it.
do. We are what we eat, drink, think and do. And we are creating reality. Yes, we're creating it jointly with those others, which is a bit of a worry.
Shared, no doubt about it. I know, but yeah, we are definitely creating this. No doubt about it whatsoever. Absolutely none. I put it to the test. I don't put it to the test. And another thing I don't do anymore is I don't question it. I tended to early on have a few doubts, thinking this can't be really happening. But then with the number sequences, you know, the 111s and things happening and synchronicities, like I only got to think about something 2 minutes later, it's there, weird discoveries, other just fantastical stuff that has happened. Then I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, because it's been the craziest ride ever. You can't even imagine.
Well, if you chose to be born, this is a pretty exciting time to choose.
I wouldn't miss this for the world. And when I was born and when I was a little kid, I knew that I was meant for something else and I knew what it was. And I've always been about like the master of disaster. I've always been interested in catastrophe. I've always been interested in this place. I've always been interested in the geography, the geology. And I did have an interest in what was above us as well, but it's been more down here. I had a really big interest in nature and I guess early on geometry. I spotted something early on. I lived in a fantastical, magical world, Clive, up until about the age of 7 years of age. And the moment it stopped overnight, like that. And then I was like in a grieving process, same sort of feeling as if you'd lost a relative or something, crying all the time, really unhappy, and wanting it back. And it was gone completely. I've had like little instances of it since, but never the same again. So I was living in a fantastical world up until quite late on, I think, you know, maybe 6 or 7 years of age. Because I was a smart kid as well, so I knew the things that I was seeing. I knew the things that were going on. It was it's hard to even describe the way I perceived reality back then. I think all of us do, maybe as children, but I think I was definitely different. So yeah, that stopped. That made me really unhappy for the longest time. Can't explain it. I guess you could say, sorry?
I'm glad you've rediscovered yourself now.
Well, yeah, I did take a couple of bad life choices early on there, but that was just through, like you say, bad relationships. And to be honest with you, with me, it was like because I'd spent so long at sea And then I came back to land, and I had some great jobs, archaeology. I'd worked, what I wanted to do, jobs that I liked. So I was working on like houses like you're in there on stonemasonry, just to be around history. I work for Cadw, Welsh Monuments, stuff like that. So I did a lot of jobs when I come back from sea that I liked. But after being at sea, a different country every single week, nothing would compare. And I was always like, everything's just so crap, and always be depressed about that. Nothing was ever fantastic enough, until like the last 5 years or so, 6 years. It has been fantastic. It's just the love and of the truthers as well, and what we've achieved in this realm so far. We didn't want to waste this medium of the internet. It'd be a terrible shame, to waste it on just like, pussycat videos and, whatever on the internet. It's just rubbish. It was just, I still think more could be done though. What I'd like to see is some sort of cohesion between the truthers together, because they're always at one another's throats and none of them talk to one another and they don't really get on. Imagine if all of the top names, right, like Max and all the others, right, did one super vlog by everyone just doing a minute or so, two, saying their piece to wake people up, putting all one fantastic video. That would be super viral. That would wake up tens and tens of millions without a doubt. But they just, nobody ever thinks or does anything like it. It's just more could be done as a unit. I'm saying as as a force together. The safety in numbers, definitely, like you said earlier. And there's enough of us now. In my head, it only takes a table full of awake people to change the entire paradigm. Yeah. Yet we've got all of these people, so many, all on the same vibration, all wanting the same thing. Yeah. And all can see what is going on, which is really thankful for that. But we're all living in a lonely world. We're all living in exactly the same problem. For everyone's writing to me, their families don't understand them. I love my wife, but she's going to take my children off and have them injected. What am I going to do?
It's a common issue right now.
It's really hard, that one. So families are affected, friends are affected, and people just don't isolate in the same way. People have changed so much over the last year as well. I've seen a friend that maybe aged 10, 15 years since the last time I saw him 2 years ago. I didn't even recognize him at first. It was like, what? How much you look older in this, what this has done to you, just believing it all. The worry, everyone's looking so, solemn, and their faces are hanging down, and because of all of this, and
this
is just crying shame.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that's the desired effect. I mean, I've got two, I'm hesitate to say a mantra, but some 8 years ago, I decided that I wasn't going to let anybody or anything upset my nice day.
You got it. Don't let them stand in your way, and just go out with the right intent. And then if anything does, then that's them. It's just them. It's just brilliant. I go with that ethos as well, mate. Don't worry about it.
At the moment, I'm pursuing unrelenting happiness, in that I'm not going to let anything get me down. I'm not going to be worried about it, the future or anything. I'm just, not just, it's just bouncing off. But I had to sort of harden myself a little bit to get to that point.
I haven't. I've been hardened already. I've had a tough life, and I've always had the wolf trying to bite my ass, and I've always been running away from it. I've always felt I've been on a run, and I've never felt anywhere like I've been settled. Like everyone else got that homely feeling where they can just relax and put their feet up. I never get that, because I'm on my own in this place, and I've always had to look after myself and rely on my own wits, and I've no one in this place by the Almighty to rely on. Then you become wired differently. You just, it's a completely different thing, to live your life. The way I feel about my existence is just pure survival. That's the way I feel, brother. Everything else is just like, hang on, I'm just gonna just survive, yeah, and experience it. And all of the other notions of, materialistic gain and attachment and all of that is just something that I'm not really, it's not part of me. Never has been really. I'm more a people person, more about people, and just loving nature. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone's families to be happy. Essentially, everyone in the world wants exactly the same thing, don't they? They want to, they want to be happy, left alone by them, and just be happy with their families, safe as well.
And I think
Um,
one of the things that people really want actually is to be hugged.
oh yes,
And that's one of the
hugged.
cruelest things about this.
Yeah, one big hug for the whole of humanity. Just all hold one another and just keep on holding one another. That is what would be beautiful. Instead of everyone drove against one another by, distractions. They've been playing a few really nasty ones, and they still are lately, and driving brother against brother, sister against sister. That turns my stomach. That turns my stomach to see and feel it. I don't like feeling that way in this realm. I don't. It makes me want to cry. The wild heart, and people falling for it as well. When they can't see beyond the obvious that there's only one of us here and shared, and you can't be praying to God and moaning and petitioning God because He's too busy being you. and
I was thinking, God on Sunday must be so
oh,
pissed off. Like millions of people saying, "Go, give me this, give me that." Just Sunday, leave me alone.
brother, that's you do your little, like you just said, your little ritual, whatever you do. I got one as well, and I've practiced it for quite a while. So instead of keeping on and asking God, can I have this, can I have that, right, I don't. I do my little ritual, like a joss stick, tap my Tibetan bell, and I make sure to police my thoughts so nothing else comes in, because that might come into fruition. Right? And I will literally just say, I'm really grateful for all of this. It's really beautiful. Thanks so much. And, if all of the goodness could just give me abundance so I can share it to wake people up. And I just say these things in my mind every single day, more than once a day, maybe once, twice. The affirmations, they are positive affirmations. And it works fine for me because, that's basically what I want anyway. I want
Well,
anyone happy.
I got partway through saying when I was looking at the survivors for cancer, and I thought that they were going to say, well, it was the vitamin C, and they all said it was gratitude. They said when I first got the cancer, it was so horrible, so terrible, and why me? I'm so young. Why isn't that nasty person who's got the cancer? And then they said after a while that they realised what they had to do in their life,
Yeah.
and they changed it, and the cancer went away. It's
Oh,
perfect.
the vibration geometrically of gratitude will do it as well, and that great relief. With that anger that they might feel, that person hasn't got it over there, and they're evil or a drug dealer. Why haven't they got it? And I've been good, and all of that. And those feelings, them negative feelings of guilt, of anger, of time running out, and all of these negative things. They're the things permeating that's going to make them ill in the first place. If they just turned that round to a positive and thought, no, fuck this. I'm gonna just not even worry about it basically, and just get lifting that vibration up and up and up, and you know that's all any of us can do anyway. But it's just they got so much tools against us, haven't they? Think about it. It's just the way they use the language, the way they use shapes and symbols, as imprints on consciousness that people are unaware of, the sigils that we miss, the little magic tricks that have put in there that we all are privy to apparently, but they're too quick for us to notice, but they're certainly doing them. And a whole manner of technologies. Some of them are startling, but you mentioned. But I think they can enter dreams. I think they can mess with dreams. I've read about dream machines. Um, it's something about our energetic field, I feel. I think that even to the extent that even our energetic field or can be taken out of this matrix, okay? Like sort of abducted out of this matrix. Yeah, popped out of it, if you like. Where is it we go when we dream? Where is that place?
Are you sure you wake up in exactly the same reality? Or
No, never no more. Never no more. And it's not only me. My son's not even a truther. And he's like, uh-oh. A few times it's been, uh-oh. It's so noticeable now. I'm not the only one noticing these changes. I do not feel like I'm in the same realm. I don't even feel like I'm the same person. I feel like we're in a definite parallel universe or something, and we're not in the same place that I was maybe a few years ago. When it happened, some people are suggesting 2012. They suggest CERN. They suggest a lot of stuff, don't they? But I definitely feel that it shifts daily. Every day that I wake up, it's a bit like Dark City. Things have altered, things have changed, subtle stuff, but just enough that they know that I will notice. And I think, you know, you start to juggle with whether you're sane or not. Is this actually happening? But your rationality will just tear through and say, no, this is happening. And then you'll just be having a rush of truth, and you know that this is happening. So you can't be denied. It cannot be denied what is happening. And this, whatever they're doing at the moment, it must be to just stem the flow. It must be a finger in the dike affair to stop what is happening. It has to be. This truths that are coming out now about the health. Look who's lose out. All of them. Governments, they're going to be out of business. Monetary funds, the money, the monetary system gone. Trading system probably collapse. Big pharma gone. Monsanto, all of it. It's just going to be just none of it will be there anymore. No need for it, any of it. So they have got a lot to lose, so they will lie through their teeth and do what they can, and that includes in lockdown the entire of civilization and carry on to do so. So I don't know how long it's going to last. They've been employing armies of these police to tell us off and stuff, like little kids, until 2023. So at least probably till that period. But they are selling tickets for concerts for next year, Download Festival, etc. for 2022. So,
but 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and you'll be able to go on holiday. It's all fine. It's only 403 days since the beginning of this. 403 days.
no way. I never even heard of any of it until just before. Just came out of the blue, but I just never had no surprise, no shock whatsoever. I'd been talking about it on vlogs for a couple of years, and literally, I felt like when this happened, I felt like the whole world had turned up at my door. It's like, Martin, Martin, they're resetting civilization. I was like, yeah, I know. And I did say they might use something like a psyop of a pathogen, didn't I? And I did say that. I got the exact vlog, and I say in it. And I had an argument ongoing when people say, no, germs might not be real. I was like, yes, I know, I'm a purveyor of that, but I'm just saying you don't need them, do you? You just need the media. So yeah, that was like in 2018 I did that. So like and then I does a chapter on it as well. I write a little bit about it as well, and I just can't even believe that everything that I was saying is actually happening.
You have to be careful what you think and say, obviously, Martin.
Well, that's what I was wondering as well. Because I've got stuff in there that I write everything down before I present and stuff. And I was reading stuff back from a couple of years ago, and it literally happened. The entire reality has changed to fit what I wrote in that paragraph. And I'm like, no, it's like, so I tripped out a bit, and I spoke to my on a live vlog and said it's like never ending story. It's like everything that I'm writing down or everything that I'm like drawing tends to you come into fruition. This happens early on in life. Check this out. I was sat outside my friend's house in a car about the age of 19, say, and no, 18. I was 18, waiting for him to come out of the house, and a big guy knocks the window, and it's a big gypsy. To cut a long story short, he started strangling me. Okay, says I owed him money, but he was a crazy person. So forget all that. But while he was strangling me, I was drawing a picture here while I was waiting of minarets and domed buildings and palm trees, sort of Arab setting. Okay, beautiful setting. And it was quite a nice picture too. I thought, oh, that's nice. Then I'm strangled and I'm in massive trauma. Okay, because I'm like literally gagging for breath. 5 days, 6 days after that, I was sat on a quayside looking at exactly the same view as I'd drawn. A day later, a ship turned up and I joined it. And then 4 days later, we was in like Istanbul. And I was like, what? I was like, I drew this, and I knew I drew this, and I was like, what? So that was like 18, and I was like, I made this come true. And I thought as well, though, I thought that the trauma had made it happen for some reason. I just don't know why I thought that, but I thought because I'd drawn it, the trauma had made it happen. I don't think that was the case, but it is a coincidence they both happened exactly the same time. So I knew then maybe that I could influence and then I messed up then because I sort of was just like mental, pure hedonistic, and just wanted to have fun to a monumental level. So I did have fun to a monumental level. But you can only party for so many years, can't you? Until it catches up.
Yeah, that's what I found.
Yeah. So I partied for a couple of decades, and then like I don't do that anymore.
You know what I think is the differential with people at the moment is that most people have got a fear of death, and then there's a percentage of people who have no fear of death because they believe they know what happens before and after. I don't know what your experience has been, but
well, I've had a lot of death in the last 3 years. I lost all my family 3 years ago. And I had no fear before then. I'm reckless, mate. You know, I'm the type like, you know, back in the day when we were down, you know, fighting the Millwall, you know, I was reckless. So I had a reckless sort of childhood in the 1970s in the British cities when you're a skinhead, etc. I can assure you these were very violent times that I went through. Okay, it was very violent. All of us did. So I was fearless, you know. I was smaller than everyone else in school, but I was cleverer than everyone else in school. So, you know, first thing I done was a bit of like, you know, well, I think I'll get a gang going. And then I was like, you know, then I'll be the leader, and then I can get them doing this, them doing that. I can be over here with a bird, everything's sorted, and I'm going to be left alone for the whole duration of school. Bam! I did it. It was brilliant. So yeah, I did stuff like that. You know, I used my my brains to you know navigate through this really dodgy place that I found myself in. And like I said, again, alone as well, just relying on my own wits. Couldn't even trust my friends. You know, never can trust your friends. So it left me in a certain state of mind. But like coming up to 3 years ago, in fact, I lost my wife 2 weeks ago, 3 years ago. Okay. And witnessing that and witnessing how bad it was for her because of her the way she went was through alcohol. Okay, and she had the most miserable death. It was the worst. So I was there for that, and then 3 months later, my mother died. So I was like, "Hang on, I've just lost everybody." So I experienced death like extremo, but my mother was very, you know, she was fine when she went. So I was like, "Wow." You know, and the whole experience seemed really surreal. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, these people are just not in their bodies. This is just some sort of electrical energy, an entity that is just not here anymore. Has moved on. I completely got it and felt it, and if you did have any fear, which I never, it alleviated it. It was really good for me to witness death in such a scale. Strange as it may seem, because you know, I was thinking to myself, like, I don't get no worse than that. And then the pandemic happened, and I was like, well, what's the worst thing can happen? Pandemic. So you know, there's nothing to really, you know, bother you. I don't think most people, Clive, are scared of death. I think maybe they're scared of the pain of death. I'm not sure, or the unknown. But it might be actually fantastic. We don't know what it is, do we? So, you know, my mother, the moment she passed, there was a great sense of relief, and she had a smile on her face. So it was like, okay.
Yeah,
You
my
know?
mum was pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But you know, I was very lucky in that when I was about 15, one day I suddenly found myself floating on the ceiling, looking at what appeared to be my dead body.
You had that, did you?
And it was fantastic because I lost my fear of death because I realized I wasn't.
You realized you were a soul living in a meat body. Yeah.
You don't die when your body's not there anymore. You're just carrying on. I was still me, and
You are. Do you know when you're on the astral realm, you maintain the exact same moral fiber that you do in this realm. You're the same person. It's uncanny, you know. It's just like you are exactly you. It's just fantastic. I love that aspect.
But exactly, but not necessarily. I mean, I've had lots of out of body experiences, and I did find myself in one place that was quite interesting, which people call the void.
I've heard of it.
What happened was that, well, I'll tell you the full story. It doesn't really matter. I met this girl, and she said, "Look, it's not about sex, but what we're going to do is we're going to get completely naked and we're going to hug each other tight. But before we do that, we're going to take a dissociative anesthetic." And the early anesthetics they used in hospitals were things like chloroform and
ether.
And they're known as dissociative anesthetics because you can leave your body. You don't feel the pain because you're not in the body. You're not in it, right? And so we do this, and we take the dissociative anesthetic, and the next thing, I'm out, and I'm familiar with being out of my body. And you can go anywhere. You can visit all sorts of realms. But every time I'd done it before, when I came back into my body, that was it. That was the end of it. But this time I came snap back in my body. I'm being held in this state of pure love, and I go out again. And this happens 2 or 3 times. Then suddenly I'm in a place I've never been before, and it's bliss. It's like nirvana. And I'm here in this place. I think I could be here forever. Feels so nice. I could just be here forever, a million years. And as I'm becoming more aware of where I am now, I realize that it's totally black. There's nothing to see. I haven't got a body. I'm me, completely me, but I haven't actually got a body. And there's nobody to talk to, nothing to do, nothing to see, except just be. And it feels like everything is there, everything in this blackness. And I didn't want to leave. It was just felt like a resting place for souls, somewhere you could stay for a long time. Anyway, and then after a while, I'm back. And I realize what that place was. It's what people who take ketamine call the K-hole. And the dissociative we'd taken was ketamine. Ketamine isn't the animal tranquilizer that they say. It's actually a dissociative anesthetic. Anyway, I don't know whether you know much about ketamine, but people...
No, how do you? Yeah, of course.
Okay, so people sometimes just pass out because they've taken too much ketamine, and they get frightened out of their wits because they find what they call the K-hole. And what happens is suddenly they haven't got a body and there's nobody there to talk to, and it's totally dark and there's nothing to see and nothing to do. They find exactly what I found. I found it in a state of love, and it was fantastic. They find it in a state of fear, and they're a wreck because they think they might be there for a million years.
Yeah, right.
And,
wow. Oh, wow, that's such a buzz. Thanks for sharing that. That's such a buzz.
But I can tell you another story a bit like it, if you like. About 20 years ago, I was very much into seeing if I could get heroin addicts off heroin. And I was going to a lot of conferences about iboga. I don't know whether you've heard of iboga. Iboga is a plant.
That leaches their body, it makes them violently ill.
No, you're probably thinking more of ayahuasca.
Oh, that does it too, doesn't it? Yeah.
Okay. With iboga, millions of people have taken it in West Africa. The Congo. There's a religion called Bwiti. And the first Westerner that I ever heard of who tried this, he was a heroin addict, and immediately after he came down off the trip, which lasted a couple of days, he was no longer a heroin addict.
Wow.
And without any withdrawal.
Any withdrawal?
Nothing.
Oh.
So I got very interested in it, and I decided I'd try it. I wasn't a heroin addict, but I decided I'd try it. And I sent off to Africa, and this huge parcel came back with roots. I hadn't realized what I was ordering. And I knew what they were because I'd been to all these conferences, and I peeled the bark off the roots and stuff. And I got 2 people to be with me because I knew it might be a bit heavy duty, this journey.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I take the stuff, I mix it with honey, it tastes disgusting. Anyway, I realize I've taken way too much within 25 minutes. Oh, shit.
Too late now.
First thing that happens is I notice that I can hear a couple of friends talking in the kitchen. And I'm several rooms away. That shouldn't happen. Then I suddenly realize I can hear everybody in the street. My ears have gone like super hearing, and I can hear everybody in the street. It's really weird.
Wow.
I need to have a pee. So I begin to get up, and it's like somebody's taken a sledgehammer and smashed me on the head. It hurts so much. And it takes me about 10 minutes to get to the bathroom because I have to move at a snail's pace. It really hurts. Anyway, I lie down, and within an hour it's coming on very, very strong. And if I open my eyes, I can see you and converse with you. The second I close my eyes, a movie is projected onto the inside of my eyelids, right?
Yeah.
Open my eyes, stopped. Close my eyes, movie. And it's full movie, full color, full sound, Technicolor, and it lasts about 30 seconds, the whole movie. And I'm getting this information download for over a day, and I can't fucking stop it.
What's this film? What's this film?
Well,
You know,
it's just information. Imagine that every film you've ever seen ever, and all the ones you haven't, being shown to you
yeah.
without a second's break.
Yeah. Wow, it's like video in the Clockwork Orange when they're just bombarding him with them images at high speed.
Well, yeah, I think maybe it was worse than that. Anyway, I wasn't enjoying it. It went on for 3.5 days, right? 3.5 days, relentless.
Wow.
But
I've tripped for 3 days, so you do have my sympathies.
But in iboga, there are 4 different alkaloids. So you get 4 totally different trips over the period. So I'll tell you about the last one, which lasted 18 hours.
Oh.
It's all happening at super speed. The entire trip is super speed. And so for 18 hours, I relived every mistake I'd ever made, every rude word I'd ever said, every piece of litter I'd ever dropped, every bad thing I'd done in my life, total life review, but only the bad bits.
Wow.
And I came out of that destroyed.
I bet.
Oh my God, I wasn't going to do that again. And anyway, lots of things happened. It did change me. Anyway, so a friend of mine's a heavy duty heroin addict, and I persuaded him to try it. So me and my 2 friends, the ones who looked after me, look after him. And he's having a heavy trip, you can tell. But after 8 hours, he just gets up and says, it's stopped, it's over, I'm going. Gets in his car and drives home. I couldn't have done that. Absolutely impossible. Anyway, a year later, I'm on the beach in Goa, and I bump into him. And he says, I'm willing to tell you what happened now.
Whoa.
What happened was, when he was young, I think 7 or 8, his father died, and he blamed himself. He felt he'd contributed to the death of his dad. And then he was about 19, he crashed the car and killed his girlfriend. And he said, yeah, the reason I became a heroin addict was I've got a bit of a death issue going on, right? Okay. And so the iboga plant, he said, it didn't matter whether he had his eyes open or closed, there was a skull. And he realized that the plant was saying, now is the time to deal with your death issue. Get through it, get over it, come to terms with it. And he decided not to. He decided to carry on being a heroin addict. Oh. And the trip stopped like that.
Wow.
So very powerful plant, but anybody hearing this needs to understand that after taking iboga, you cannot do the dose of heroin you were doing previously. It will kill you. Yeah. What iboga does is it resets the opiate receptors back to 0. So people have died after
overdose. Yeah.